A lot of people think when you're a pro, everything's going to be good and everything's going to be perfect. But when you're really in the game, you realize there's a lot of ups and downs. And honestly, most of the time it's more down. And it's just about having that confidence to get back up and say, hey, I'm not going to let this determine who I am or the outcome of my career or my situation.
I see Micah. He's a professional footballer. He must have all these girls in his DMs, nice car, nice clothes. He gets to play football. He has loads of money. All he has to worry about is going, playing well, and that's it. He has no other problems in his life. That's the stereotype for a professional footballer. What are some of the negatives of being a pro that people don't talk about?
A lot of stuff off the field is a big thing, you know. Of course, everyone sees you traveling, okay, girls liking your posts and everything. But I think the biggest thing is dealing with stuff off the field, especially when you're by yourself. So, for example, when I was in Germany, I was not training too good. I wasn't playing, and then I come home and I'm just, okay, what am I supposed to do now? After I made my debut, my grandpa passed away. So it was a big thing. I was dealing with a lot of mental health issues. I think it's just having that support group and just dealing with the stuff off the field is a big thing.
When you were at U Sports about what's next, like what advice would you have given to yourself back then?
Control what you can control. At the end of the day, if I do believe that if you put in the work and everything else will align for itself.
Micah, what are you hoping to get out of this podcast?
Honestly, just trying to learn. You know, I've really loved watching podcasts, to be completely honest with you. So just learning how to get through it and how to, you know, just answer questions and just have a podcast conversation.
I feel like your story can relate to a lot of the people listening to this because you've been to a lot of different places. You've had a lot of different experiences and you're still at the start of your football career, kind of trying to break through. For a player that's listening to this, that is trying to get better, trying to have opportunities, trying to have experiences, what would you say has been the most important part of your football career so far?
I think the most important part, honestly, would be just having confidence. A lot of people think when you're a pro, everything's going to be good and everything's going to be perfect. But when you're really in the game, you honestly realize there's a lot of ups and downs. And honestly, most of the time it's more downs. And it's just about having that confidence to get back up and say, hey, I'm not going to let this determine who I am or the outcome of my career or my situation. Also, honestly, I'd for sure say just confidence and just pushing through the good and the bad.
Interesting. So in terms of confidence and talking about that, what would you say has been a point in your career where you've been the most confident?
Honestly, I think when I first signed for Hanover, I'd say it was the most confidence because not many people take the route of U Sports, which is Canadian University Sports, and then they sign to a Bundesliga club, you know? So I think that was a big thing, for sure, just being different. Because I know there's, I think, one more other person, I think Bilal Houdini, he plays for Vancouver Whitecaps now. He made the move, but it's really rare that you see an athlete going from U Sports soccer straight to a big European club. So I think, for sure, just my confidence was there was pretty.
So let's talk about that because we were just talking a little bit off camera. I didn't know that you played at a university. So did you go to the university for academics or did you go there to play?
Honestly, in that moment, I was a bit 50-50 about do I want to pursue soccer. Of course.
And what age are you at this point, 17, 18?
I was 17. So I was a bit iffy about football, to be honest. And my parents have always been for education. So I said, okay, I'm going to go somewhere where I can get the education, be close to home, and still play the game that I love. I don't think it was till later I saw one of my best friends, Damar. He was doing really well in Europe. I said, hey, I can honestly take the chance on myself and honestly be at a level where he is or even better. So I'd say just going to uni, I think after that season, I said, okay, I still have the talent, I still have the confidence, I still have the ability to play this game. So I just took it.
So that is a crazy transition. Do you see that as crazy or do you kind of just see that as normal? That's just your story?
I see it as crazy, but honestly, I wouldn't be able to do it without God, to be honest. I feel like a lot of situations that happen in my life, it's like, wow, how did that happen? But it for sure had to be from him because, again, you don't see guys going from U Sports to Hanover. I was also out of contract for 6 months, and I was able to get picked up by Toronto FC. So everything just happened really quick.
So let's talk about like your kind of story and your background in football growing up. So you grew up in Toronto.
Markham, about 30 minutes.
So you grew up in Markham. At what age did you start taking football seriously as a kid?
I'd say 13. 13 is when I made my first appearance in Europe at a tournament called Iber Cup. I'm not sure if you heard of it. That tournament, I scored 22 goals.
Over what, like a week?
Over 2 weeks. 2 weeks. It was me and Damar, actually, my best friend. We scored and combined about 40 goals in that tournament. And then I think that's when a lot of eyebrows raised, okay, like, hey, this kid got
And
something.
that was for Markham FC, Markham United?
It was
or-
called Toronto International Football Club. So it was just an academy that my coach made, and as I told you before, he loved going to Europe. So it's kind of like a travel team, you would say. And I think after that, a lot of eyebrows raised and said, okay, this kid got something for sure. Yeah.
And then you come back from that tournament.
Yeah.
What happens?
Honestly, nothing really happened. I didn't really go on any trials or anything, but we just kept on pushing every year to go to Europe and play tournaments to just see our level. So I think after that, we went back for another year. We didn't do as good. We came with a different team, but we just kept on going back and forth. So we went to Italy. We won that tournament, actually, the Milano Football Festival. So we beat teams like Inter Milan and Cagliari, and that's honestly when eyebrows really raised because people are like, okay, who's this Canadian team? And this was before Alphonso Davies and those Canadians were making names for themselves. So I think honestly, just going back and forth to Europe and testing.
So why did you need to go to Europe to test your level? Why couldn't you just stay in Canada?
To be honest, at the time, well, even today, European football, as everyone knows, is the best of the best, and that's where the best players want to play. So I think it was best to test our abilities against the best. Of course, in Canada, we were dominating every tournament that we went to. We were winning. We'd play 2 years up. We were dominating. So I think it was when we went to Europe, we could see and test ourselves against the best for sure. Yeah.
So you're doing all of this at 13, 14, 15, 16, and then you go to university sports.
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't you have had a better offer than going to university in Canada? Or was that a good level?
It was a decent level, of course, and I'm as I said before, I was kind of iffy about football at the time. But I knew Laurier was a place where, one, I was going to be able to play 90 minutes. It was a great coaching staff. And honestly, it was a place where I'm a home guy, so I was 1 hour away from home. So if I wasn't really feeling the university environment, I could always go back home. And also my coach was still here, so I was always going back and forth to play games on Thursdays and on weekends. So I think for me, it was about being home and just still having that relationship.
But did you have any other offers, or was the university sports the only offer?
Yeah, I had
that you
a couple offers. I was actually committed to Chicago State, Division I. That was my first offer, and I first committed to them. And it was just unfortunate. You know how the game goes. The coach leaves, and then your scholarship's gone and everything. So I had a couple offers, Chicago State. I was talking to, I think, UMass Lowell, Boston University.
And how did you find all of these coaches?
It was through NCSA. I'm not sure if you heard of NCSA.
Yeah.
It was through NCSA. So I had one of my friends, I think he did it through basketball, and he said, hey, you should do it. You know, you have a good background, you have a good CV, you have good video. So it was through NCSA. But nothing really was really into
Did they message you, or you had to message them?
I messaged other teams or NCSA?
Like, for example, because there'll be people listening to this that are like, wow, he just uploaded his video online and all these coaches started to message him. Like, did you have to be proactive with that? Did you have to reach out to those coaches?
Most of the times they reached out to me. But I'd say that was like the lower division. So Division 3, Division 2, they saw my video. But for sure, Division 1s, I had to reach out to them. They would invite me to ID camps. But I was lucky enough, the Chicago State coach, he really liked me. He was a Jamaican guy, actually, so,
Yeah.
that,
I had a friend, actually, that went to Chicago State.
Really,
It's
yeah?
funny, yeah. And he was saying that they had a big, like, Caribbean and Jamaican.
Yeah. So he loved my background. He loved who I was, and he was able to just offer me a scholarship, off of my video and just of conversation.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So why did you then? So that coach left, and you lost your scholarship. So then you had to choose the university sports route.
I ended up choosing the university sports route, but honestly, I think deep down I always wanted to stay close to home, and I wanted to stay closer to my family.
Okay, so you play a season at U Sports,
I played one season, yeah.
and then what happens?
I played one season, and then
Good season.
it was a pretty decent season, to be honest. I started as a center back, then I went to left back, then I ended up being a wing back. So near the end, honestly, I would say it was a pretty good season. But I was planning to stay for one semester. So that would have been from August to about January. And then my plan was to go to sign in the January transfer window in Europe. But that didn't really work out because, the time, and in Italy at the time.
But why? Because this is, I don't really understand, because to go from the Unity Sports level to sign at a club in Germany, in Europe, is like a massive jump.
It is.
So like, were you thinking about Germany before you went to U Sports? Did that just kind of come and happen out of nowhere? Like, how did that connection happen?
Well, before I went to university sports at Laurier, I had the opportunity to play in a friendly match against a Barbados national team. And a German scout was there, but I didn't really think much of it. So as time went on, I
And
played.
who was that for? The Jamaican team? Or?
No, this was for my academy.
Okay,
It was for Unionville at the time. The name kind of changed. Unionville Milliken Soccer Club. So I played a friendly game against the Barbados national team, and then I didn't think much of it. But I guess my agent or my support group at the time, they kept in contact with him. So at the time of January, he said, okay, you can come and you could sign for a Regional Liga team, which is the 4th division of Germany. But I think everything was moving too quick, to be honest, and I wanted to really finish out that full year of university experience. So I waited until the end, you could say April. And it was actually the last day of school. I hopped on a flight straight to Italy. I did a couple of trials. I was with Cittadella, Virtus Verona, and then I got a call from Hanover saying, hey, since you're in Europe, you might as well come and we'll check you out. And I went on a 4-day trial, and honestly, I think I didn't really do too good, to be honest. I made a lot of mistakes, but I guess they saw the potential.
So how is all this happening? Because it sounds like very easy, like, oh, they called me, but there's a lot of stuff going on in the background. I'm assuming with your agent, with your coach, with your parents. Who is putting all of this together?
My coach, Coach Kevin. This is my coach from when I was young, and he really found me when I was in house league, and he's the one that brought me to Europe. So I'd really say Coach Kevin and my family, they really put it together because they saw the potential in me when I didn't really see it in myself.
So your coach had those connections?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And why? Like, how does, because I'm just trying to think, because there's a lot of coaches in like youth sports. I mean, well, actually, I'm not that well versed in Canada, so maybe I'm wrong. But for example, in the US, who wouldn't have those coaches? You know, your job is to coach the team, and that's it. But how did you pick that club because that coach had those connections? Were you just lucky that that coach was the coach
for Hanover, or
for your club in Canada that was that the coach Kevin who helped you get out to Europe? Like, did you pick that club because he was the coach, or you just got lucky?
Honestly, I just got lucky. You know, he found us when we were young, and he built a really great team. And as I said before, I think every time we traveled to Europe and we did good, he was able
More
to
people
network.
were asking about him.
You know, like, hey, who's this person? Who's this coach? I think he just did a great job on networking, and I guess it really paid off over the time because now you have me. I played at Hanover at TFC. My friend DeMar Dixon, he plays Serie B for Frosinone. Another guy on my team, Ruben Silva Richards, he plays at ADO Den Haag, and I think Netherlands. You know Kamani Stewart-Baines? He plays. He signed in the super draft for Colorado, the 3rd pick. So we have a lot of guys that are played at a high level. So I think he did a really great job of just networking and just keeping the quality high.
So, and when you went from and when you went from U Sports out to all these trials, did you feel like that was a big jump? Did you feel like you were a bit out of your comfort zone?
100%. I remember when I first went to Cittadella, I was a bit nervous because, of course, in Canada, the pitches are amazing. We play on turf and stuff, but when you go there, this is a high professional team, but their academies, they're playing on pitches that are great. So, you know, I'm a bit nervous. You know, the ball is bouncing. I'm not really used to that bouncy grass. So I was for sure nervous because I'm like, okay, maybe I'm out of place. But when I look back at it, I wish maybe I would have had a little bit more confidence, but I think everything happens for a reason. It's for a reason, and you learn a lot, yeah.
When you went on your trials, what was your... So how does the trial process work? Because there's a lot of players who, like, they're like, I want to go on trial in Europe, and they don't really understand how it works. Do you have an agent? Are they booking the hotel? Do you have to book the hotel yourself, the food, the bus transfer? Because there's a lot of logistical things. Like, you think, okay, I'm going to go trial in Europe. I'm going to just turn up to the field. They're going to have all my kit laid out. It's going to be perfect. Yeah. Did you have to organize your hotel, your rental car?
I've been on a lot of trials, so honestly, it depends on the club. My first ever trial was for SC Braga in Portugal. So I think it depends on the club. You know, it's a big European club, so honestly, you just have to show up and everything's there for you. My parents did have to cover my hotel and food, everything. So I think for them, it's a blessing for them because it was like an investment. So I owe everything to them. And that's why I fight today to really earn my spot in football because they invested in me. They saw the potential in me before I really saw it in myself. So I think it depends on the club. When I was in Italy now, it was a bit different. My agent covered it for me. I guess, again, it was like him investing in me because I guess he knew when I signed, then other players would come to him and so on. It's a business at the end of the day. So for my Italian trial, it was, you know, they paid for my hotel and everything. And I just had to show up and perform. Yeah.
And do you feel a lot of pressure when you're on trial?
For example, when I was on TFC for a trial because they wanted to see me because I was out of contract for 6 months. When I went there, not really, because I knew, I don't want to be too cocky, but I knew I was coming from a higher level. So I think it was just there, just proving myself that I'm able to play at this level and I'm able to even play at a higher level. But of course, before, when you're just new to it, you're gonna feel nerves.
So when you were trialing at these Italian and these German clubs, and you're playing in this environment, was that like youth teams or was that men's teams?
It was the U team. So I was with Cittadella Primavera, which is the highest level of academy football. It's the under U19. But I think now they changed it to U20. So basically, it's after the U20, it's either you sign to the first team or you go to lower levels like Serie C, Serie D. For Germany, it was the U23s, which is also the highest level of academy football, and it's considered semi-professional. So I'd for sure say, yeah, it was majority of the times it was academy football.
How are those youth players different to a standard Canadian youth player?
I think, well, I know Canadian players, we have more talent, but I think it's just the drive. Honestly, when you go to Europe, you see these guys, they're not really as talented as you, but the drive and the hunger, and they really want to win every duel they get in, every shot they take, every pass is with just precision and that ability.
Why do you think that is?
That's a great question. I'm not really sure, to be honest. Maybe it's just a mindset thing, and maybe because they can really see it. They see the first team training right beside them. They see the first team players. They can, say hi and they can touch them. But I think in Canada it's really hard because we only have Toronto FC, Vancouver Whitecaps, Montreal Impact. Of course, you have the CPL, but a lot of players are not able to see,
It's not a clear pathway.
Yeah, the first team environment. I remember there was a video I was watching. Donnell Henry, he was saying the day he realized he could make it pro was when he trained with the first team. So I think that's a big thing. A lot of Canadians don't have the opportunity to experience a first team environment or a second team environment. So I feel like it's just the opportunity, honestly. Yeah.
And then, so when you were playing in Germany, was that the U23 team? Or was
U23.
And how was that experience? Did you feel like there was a pathway was your goal to eventually get in the first team? Was your goal just to be happy and stay at that level? Like when you signed for that club, like what's the purpose of signing?
When I first signed, honestly, my objective with myself and my agent was just to establish myself in European football. As you know, Alphonso Davies, a left-footed, left back, left defender. So I think it was just, trying to follow that stereotype and say, hey, okay, there's another Canadian player that is coming up the ranks. And when I first went there, a lot of numbers were calling my phone and my agent's phone about, hey, who's this kid that comes from U Sports playing for a Bundesliga club? So I think honestly, it was just trying to establish my name in European football and just get my name around. Yeah.
So now you're playing for TFC. Mm-hmm. Why? What happened?
Well, so I was at Hanover. I was on a 1+1.
What's that?
Basically, it's you're guaranteed for 1 year, and then the option is in the hands of the club. So I went there. Preseason went well. I started every game. We won every game, I'm pretty sure. And then it came to the season now. I was unable to play due to my ITC, which is like your
international clearance.
Yeah, you're like clearance to play. So my debut actually was against a team called SV Meppen. It's basically one of those historic German clubs. So in a typical Fort League game, you have about 300 to 400 people. But this was my first ever professional game, and it was like 7,000 people. It was raining, and I told my friends, like, I felt like I was in FIFA, So unfortunately, it was my first game, and I got a red card. It was right before halftime, and then everything kind of went downhill from there.
Really?
Yeah.
And how mentally did you deal with that?
It was hard. It was hard because when I'm away from home, two, I'm used to being in good spirits and playing a lot and playing week in and week out. So it was for sure mentally draining. Yeah.
I was going to ask you because do you know Italian? Do you know German?
I can understand some German, but I'm not really fluent.
So and how is, because, for example, a lot of our players that we're working with, they'll go out to these different countries and sometimes they struggle with the language. How did you deal with the language barrier?
Well, you have to learn for sure. You have to learn for sure because it's also an act of respect for them when they see you're at least trying to learn their language. But I was blessed that a lot of the guys understood English and they could see that I was trying. So if I was kind of messing up, they'd just, have a conversation with me in English. And I was also lucky enough that the coach actually played with, I think it was Julian de Guzman, when he was at Hanover, actually. So he kind of knew, Canadians, and he also knew a bit of English. So it helped me out a lot.
What was the most challenging? Because you mentioned at the start you were quite a homebody. You're obviously close to your family and your friends and everything, and you like being at home. Mm-hmm. What was the biggest challenge of living away from home, being on the other side of the world? Honestly,
just becoming my own man. I was always a kid that stayed at home, so my parents are cooking for me. I went to university, dining hall, or they'll send food up for me. So I'd say just becoming my own man. When I first signed, I didn't know how to cook actually. So for the first 2 months, I was straight Uber Eating, ordering food until I got sick, and I'm like, okay, this has to change. So my dad actually flew all the way down for 2 weeks to teach me how to cook and teach me the ins and outs of everything. So I think just learning to be by myself was a big thing, and just becoming a man. Yeah.
And what was one of the most difficult moments that you had?
Difficult. I think it was coming back from mid-season break in the German league, because the weather could be pretty harsh. So they play from August to November, then you break for a whole month. So I remember before the break, the coach actually pulled me aside because I was training. I just came back from injury and I was training really well. And he said, when you come back, if you continue playing like this, there's going to be a big opportunity for you in the second half of the season. So I think, I came back home, I was training. I came back for, I guess you could say, the second preseason they have, which is the build-up for the second half of the season. And I was doing great, and then everything just went back to normal. I wasn't playing. So I think that was really hard on me because I guess I kind of got my hopes up.
How do you deal with not being in the team?
Honestly, it was hard. I kind of lost love for the game for a bit. But near the end, I think because I knew I was able to play at that level and I knew that I had a great future ahead of me and God had a plan for me, I just, I had to just really, not really look too much in the moment, just look forward to the future.
What would you say is like a good coping mechanism for not being in the team?
Your support group is a big thing. Your support group, and honestly, just working on yourself, because I see it as if you know where you're meant to be, nothing's going to stop you. So I remember when I was out of the team, I was hitting the gym twice a day. I was eating good. I was still training hard. So I think that's where a lot of people fall off, because it's either you just give up, you just go to training, go through the motions, or, for example, me on the other side, I was going early, I was still putting in the work. So I think it's just still putting in the work when you don't want to and when the odds don't look like they're in your favor.
What does hard work mean, though? Because I feel like a lot of this feedback is like pretty obvious, like you need to work hard and you need to like be disciplined and kind of keep and stay positive. But let's say that I've not played for a month. I'm not even making the bench. The coach is like not giving me any respect. I go up to the coach, say, hey, coach, what do I need to do to get in the team? Oh, I just work hard. And, you have that feeling where you're like, he doesn't care about me.
For sure.
How do you stay positive?
You just got to know yourself. You just got to know yourself, and you got to know where you want to be. I think especially, as I told you before, in the career of soccer, there's a lot of ups and downs, and mostly downs. So I think when you're able to just acknowledge that and say, okay, hey, although I'm down right now, I won't be down forever. You're able to go in every day with a smile on your face, even though you're not playing, and still play for the love of the game, to be honest.
So you're in Germany and then you come back to Toronto.
Yeah.
How does that process happen?
So yeah, I came back to Toronto, I think, for summer break. My plan was to go back to Europe. I was on trial with SC Schalke, I think a week or so before I went home. And then there was a bit, am I going to sign? Am I not going to sign? But so my plan was actually to go back to Germany and sign for another second division club, U23. So I was looking at Schalke, Braunschweig, or even Hamburg. But as time went on, I kind of got a love for the game of soccer. And even my agent at the time, I was signed to a German agency. They're kind of a bit iffy about my situation. So I said, okay, I'm just going to stay home for now. And then, as I told you, Kevin, he was kind of, you could say my manager, not really my agent, my manager. So he said, okay, you had a decent season, you have a decent amount of film. He has his contacts, and then we kind of went from there. Yeah.
And then, so he messages Toronto and they're like, hey, can you take this kid for a week?
Not even, so I decided to go back to university to just do school and train with Laurier for 6 months. And it just happened that my agent now, he was a coach at Laurier before he became an agent. And I guess he heard that I was back in Toronto and training with Laurier. So he kind of hit me up and said, hey, man, I'd love to sit down and talk with you. And the funny thing is, he actually tried to reach out to me when I was in Hanover at the time. But my WhatsApp number was my German number, so I guess the call didn't go through or anything. So when I went back to Laurier, the head coach said, hey, his name is Pierre. Pierre wants to, sit down and talk with you, and he knows your situation. He wants to help you out. So it just happened that when I was training at Laurier, Pierre heard I was there, and then he reached out to me.
Okay, so you go to and when you signed for Toronto, was it okay? We've reviewed his film. We know he's a good player. Here's the contract, or did you have to go and trial?
It was. I'm not sure if it was guaranteed they're going to sign me, but I'm pretty sure it was. But it was. They invited me for preseason, but as time went on, you could kind of sense that they're gonna sign you. You know, a typical trial, honestly, is 1 to 2 weeks, and I was there for a month. I was playing games. I was, performing well. So I could kind of tell they're gonna.
And how did you feel being in that environment? Because the MLS Next Pro system is growing a lot. But like you don't really have fans. There's a lot of travel. Yeah. You're obviously trying to push to the first team, so everyone's kind of trying to fight for something. It's
for sure.
I mean, from the players that I've spoken to, or kind of the system, the MLS Next Pro is kind of like a bit of a weird environment. Like you're all kind of there for the same goal, but you're not really trying to be in the same place. You're all like fighting for the person next to you. So how is the team environment?
Honestly, and you can ask Pat and any of the guys, this team that we had this year was like amazing. Everyone came with smiles on their face. In that environment, not everyone's gonna get signed. You could have 15 guys signed to the second team, but maybe they'll take 1, 2 guys. So I think it's just about keeping good spirits and just pushing each other. But it was a bit different because compared to Germany, in Germany,
how is the culture different between?
It's a big difference, honestly, because in Germany you're busing every game, 4 hours, 5 hours you're busing, and then this is the first time where I'm taking flights to Miami, I'm taking flights to New York, so it's a bit different. But it's a great experience, especially for a young guy. You get to see places that maybe you thought you would never see before. And then in terms of the quality, I think it just depends on the team. We had a lot of guys coming from different backgrounds. Like you have me coming from Europe. There's a guy named Hassan Ayari. He also came from Europe. He played at Sheffield. You have Pat. You have guys like Michael Sullivan, Daquan Barrow. Everyone's coming from different family backgrounds, different soccer backgrounds. So I think it was just coming and pushing each other every day because everyone wanted to be at that first team.
It's interesting, the MLS Next Pro background, because you have so many different players from different areas. You have I think Toronto is unique because it's not an American MLS Next Pro team. So you also have like Canadian players, but you have like college draft picks, you have players coming from Europe, you have local Canadians, you have like a whole mix.
Yeah.
And does that help your team culture, that kind of everyone's from everywhere?
100%, because you get to learn about different religions, about different backgrounds, about different ways that people carry themselves. By the end of the day, everyone has a love for football, and I think that's what really gelled us together, and everyone wanted to win, and everyone wanted to be the best version of themselves.
So what is the process for being an MLS Next Pro player? Because you want to go to a higher level.
Yeah.
Do you have like individual meetings with like the scouting or the whoever is managing kind of the promotions to the first team? Do you have ever any contact with the first team? Like how, if you wanted to go to the first team, like how would it work? How would you know about it?
I think it starts with one, just performing at the level you are, so MLS Next. I remember the first time I got called to train with the first team, it was after I scored my first professional goal with the team against Inter Miami, and I remember I played a full 90 minutes, I scored one goal, and then I was moved to center back the second half. So I think it was just showing your quality at the level that you're at, and then at the end of the day, it's not really in your hands, it's in there. So you just gotta keep pushing yourself and showing your quality.
It's interesting. I want to talk to you about this because I feel like a lot of players, like they want to play in the MLS, they want to play pro, but really you need to perform at your own level and like really showcase yourself at your own level before the next jump. How important do you think is kind of like being humble?
It's a big thing because you don't want to get too ahead of yourself, because if you do and it doesn't work out, you just end up hurting yourself and your ego at the end of the day. So I think being humble is a big thing, and when you're humble, you're not really expecting too much. You're just really living in the moment, and you're controlling what you can control. Yeah.
Because there's a lot of professional footballers that have a big ego. So how do you manage your ego?
Like myself, personally.
Yeah, personally. How do you manage your ego?
Honestly, I just grew up from a humble background, and I grew up knowing that you shouldn't always boast about things, and you should treat people how you want to be treated. So, for example, if I see a first team player, I wouldn't want them to just walk past me, not greet me, not show me love. Or if I make a mistake, I wouldn't want them to just curse me out or anything. So I think for me, it's just the way that I grew up and just wanting to treat people how I would want.
So you go and train with the first team. What's that experience like?
My first training, it was 11v11, so it was a bit hectic because I was just thrown right in there, warm up, and then straight 11v11, and I was going up against Theo Corbino. So it was a bit hard. Like my first action, I remember he actually cooked me bad. He cut in and actually just went near post. But the game went on, I got him back in a nice 50-50 challenge. And I think you just have to learn. You have to learn and not go into it being nervous is a big thing. Because I remember telling one of my good friends is you can't see your full potential if you're nervous. Because everyone plays better when they're free, when they have no stress. So I think going in that environment, you just have to be yourself. And then if you're your best self and you're not performing, then okay, you can live with it. But if you're going into it being nervous, then you don't really know if you're able to play.
What are the differences in level between MLS Next Pro and the first team?
I would just say the attention span, and the quality in terms of technical ability. I'm not saying that MLS Next it's low, but for sure if they get one chance on goal, 9 out of 10 times they're scoring. In the MLS Next Pro, it'd be maybe 6 out of 10 chances they're scoring it. So I think it's just that attention span and really staying direct and staying.
What do you mean by attention span?
When I say attention span, it could be, for example, winning a duo. I think MLS Next Pro, you kind of have in the back of your mind, okay, if I lose this duo, there's another one. But really in the first team environment, it's okay, if I don't win this duo, they're going to punish me. They're going to punish my team, and then it's not going to look good on me. For example, let's say you get a ball at the top of the box and you miss it. Maybe that it's 0-0, and if you scored that goal, it would have been 1-0. So I think it's just your attention span is just really capitalizing on the big moments, or even the little moments as well. Because in the first team level, everything matters and every action matters. And if you lose one action, it could really hurt you.
Sure. And in terms of technical ability, like obviously the first team would have a better technical ability. Like what do you mean specifically? Like what is better about their technical ability?
I think it'd be their composure. Let's say a man is coming from the half space, and 9 out of 10 times again in the first team environment, they are making that turn, and they're just more confident. I think they're more composed in areas of the game where a young player might be a little bit shaky.
Interesting. And what about mentality?
Honestly, I'd say it's the same, to be honest. In MLS Next Pro, you can see a lot of young guys that are eager and they really want to fight for that spot. And then maybe in the first team environment, guys already made it, so they're a bit more eased down. But I'd say the mentality of MLS Next Pro is very high.
When the first team coach is asking for players, and the first team coach is like, okay, I want to have this player in. What do you think that they're looking for in a player to make that jump?
One, confidence, because if they see you're scared, then in their heads, okay, this guy's not ready to be here. And if this guy's not ready to be here, maybe he's not even meant to be here. So you don't even want to give them that thought in their head or the coaching staff. So they're just looking for someone that's not afraid to express himself and not afraid to play with the big balls, for sure.
So what, Micah, is your goal as a footballer? Because you've been to Europe, now you're back home close to Canada. You've also been to university sports.
Yeah.
You've had a lot of different experiences, a lot of different backgrounds. What is your goal as a footballer?
For sure, my biggest goal right now is to make the 2030 roster for Team Canada. I think that's a big thing. When I first went to Germany, it was 2026, but things didn't really go in my place. So I'm really aiming for 2030 and just trying to make a living out of soccer and being able to, share my past with, young kids coming up in the game, for sure.
So that's a massive target to make the 2030 Canada national team. Why is that your goal? Why is it not the 2026?
Well, the situation I am right now, it's a bit hard, because one, they already got their roster and I'm not really at a first team level. So I think for sure 2030 gives me more time to find myself in a first team environment, allow me to establish myself and make a name for myself. And I think I've always loved the game and I've always loved Team Canada. So just knowing the smiles that it would put on my family and my friends to see me playing for Team Canada, I'd love to.
What's your why?
My family. As I told you before, they invested a lot in me. So honestly, I owe it to them to at least try and put my best foot forward and make it in soccer.
a lot of people say that their family is their biggest why, but like everyone says that. What makes you different for the next person that says my family?
Honestly, I'm not much different from the other person. But my family, they've put blood, sweat, and tears into the sport. They've traveled.
Did they play football, your family, or?
My mom did track and field. My dad didn't really play much sport at a high level, but for sure, everyone from Jamaica plays soccer and they run track, you know. But for sure, I could see the blood, sweat, and tears that my family has put into me. You know, they've bought tickets, plane tickets when they didn't really have too much money. They've driven me to trainings, and, you know, Canadian weather could be harsh. You know, I even remember one time we were driving to one of my sessions in Stouffville, which is a bit north. Mark and we almost got in a car accident, you know, and my mom didn't even want to go that day. So I think I could just see the blood, sweat, and tears that they've invested in me. So that's my why for sure. I really want to make it for them.
Other than your family, like, what is your motivation that kind of drives you every day? Because I talk to a lot of players and like being a pro is great, you know, you get to play football, you're blessed, whatever. You can go home and do some recovery and you have time.
Yeah.
But to do that relentlessly for 10-month season when you're not in the team, when you're injured, when stuff's wrong at home, like, what keeps you driven like every day?
You have to know your why, 100%. And as you said before, everyone says their family, but you really have to, your why needs to be something that you really got to feel inside. Every time I step on the field, my family's on my mind because I know they're watching, they want me to succeed. So I'd for sure say just knowing your why, and at the end of the day, if you tried everything, you just got to live with it.
I asked this question to a few different players, right? Like, okay, I see Micah. He's a professional footballer. Yeah. He must have all these girls in his DMs, nice car, nice clothes. He gets to play football. He has loads of money. All he has to worry about is going, playing well, and that's it. He has no other problems in his life. That's the stereotype for a professional footballer. What are some of the negatives of being a pro that people don't talk about?
A lot of stuff off the field is a big thing. You know, of course, everyone sees you traveling, okay, girls liking your posts and everything, but I think the biggest thing is dealing with stuff off the field, especially when you're by yourself. So, for example, when I was in Germany, I was not training too good. I wasn't playing, and then I come home and I'm just, okay, what am I supposed to do now? Compared to back home, you know, it's a bit different because you come back home to your family. But I kind of had a similar kind of situation because after I made my debut, my grandpa passed away. So it was a big thing. I was dealing with a lot of mental health issues for about 2-3 months. So I think it's just having that support group and just dealing with the stuff off the field is a big thing for sure.
How important is your mental health as a footballer?
It's very important because a lot of coaches, they say everything's in your brain. You know, the way that you're going to perform determines on how you think and your thoughts. So mental health is a big thing because there's a lot of footballers. I remember Dele Alli, he went through a tough time. He was saying his mental health went down when he wasn't playing. So I think it's important because without your head, you're going to go crazy, man. You're going to go crazy and you're going to lose your love for a lot of things. So.
How do you deal with having a period of time where you're struggling with your mental health?
Yeah. For sure, my family, and I'm a religious guy, so I turn to God for a lot of things. You know, I thank him because in situations where I thought I wouldn't have made it out, you know, he was right there with me for sure. So I owe everything to God and my family for sure.
For someone that is not religious, that is struggling through a time of their mental health where they're struggling, like, for example, let's say that as there's a player, he's not getting a lot of minutes, or I'm not getting a lot of minutes, I'm struggling, I'm away from my family, I'm not sure if football is right for me, I'm not sure what I want to do, I'm a little bit lost, and in my head I'm thinking, am I good enough? I'm doubting myself a lot, I'm in a bad mental headspace. Like, what can I do? Like, what's been good for you?
Your support group. As I said before, I think keeping everything inside isn't good for you, so you need to have at least 1 or 2 people that you're able to talk to, and they don't have to be yes men to you, but they can tell you the real and be honest with you. So I think having your support group and having some people that you're able to talk to about everything.
So how did you do that in Germany when you were alone?
Thank God for FaceTime and WhatsApp. You know, I was able to call my friend Damar, and he was honestly, he was going through the same situation when he was signed to the Serie A team. He wasn't really playing too much. So we were able to kind of get through the situation together because we were able to relate with each other. And our families too. You know, so I think your family and your support group is very different. If you don't have that family support, for sure, that one friend that you can call.
What do you think has been a football a period of your life in your football career where you've grown the most?
When I wasn't playing in Germany, because I felt like I lost everything. I lost my joy for football. I lost my joy of just honestly just living, because I'm like, okay, I'm away from home. I don't have anything. The one thing I kind of had in store was football, and it doesn't look like it's going well for me. So I'd for sure say in Germany, I was able to better myself as a man and learn a lot of things that maybe I wouldn't have learned if I put myself in that situation.
But why did you grow from that? Like, it sounds like that was a negative experience. Like, how did you use that to grow?
Because let's say, and hopefully it doesn't, but I go through that situation again of not playing, I'm able to look back at that situation and say, okay, I made it out. I made it out for sure.
What do you think is your strength as a footballer? Why does Toronto FC want you in their team?
I'd say my leadership ability and just the good spirits I bring. With my guy, I love cracking jokes. I love making people feel good about themselves. I'm a positive guy. So I'd say for sure that. And when I'm on the field, I'll die for the badge. I'll die for my teammates. I'll work hard. I'll put in tackles when people don't want to put in tackles. I'll run up and down even though your body's telling you, okay, you need to sub out, you know. So I'd say just my work ethic and just the positive spirits I bring to other people.
So for you as a footballer, what do you think is, I think also that having a good spirit and being a leader is probably one of the most important things as a footballer. But in terms of like your football ability on a pitch, like what value can you bring to a team?
Well, my left foot, of course, a lot of people don't really have the ability to, you know, go up and down. So I'd say my aerial presence as well. I'm not really the best with my head, but if I have to use it, I'll use it for sure. So I think just my physical ability of being able to play both sides of the ball, attacking and defending is a big thing for me with my left foot for sure, yeah.
So, and this is an interesting topic I want to talk to you about because I spoke to a coach recently. A lot of players think that they need to be really good at everything. So, okay, I want to play football. I need to be really good at attacking 1v1. I need to be really good at defending. I need to be really fit. I need to be really good in the tackle. I need to be really good reading the game IQ. And this coach was actually saying, you just need to have a super strength. You need to be really good at one thing. If you're 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10 at everything, you're probably not 10 out of 10 at one thing. And at the next level, to get to the pro game, everyone is very, very amazing at one thing, one area of their game. What's your one thing?
My work ethic. And being able to play both sides of the ball, I'd for sure say is a big thing because you gotta learn how to play your role. Going into Germany, I was you could say a winger, wing back, winger, attacker. But then going into Europe, I realized, okay, I'm not really the best winger, but my defensive ability and my work ethic could really bring something for me.
How is football different in Canada and Europe?
It's not much different, to be honest. The quality is higher for sure. But as I said before, the Canadians, our technical ability is really high. But I think in Germany, for example, it's way more physical. So it's about using your technical ability to get out of those physical duels, those physical situations. Yeah.
It's interesting conversation and topic because a lot of, for example, we've got a club in England and a lot of the players who are from the US go over to play in England. They're like, it's a lot more physical. And I'm like, okay, that's great. What does that mean? And they have their answer. So I'm curious to hear like what you think, like when you say German football is physical, like what does that mean?
It's just the little things. So getting an elbow to your chest, and even the ref is looking, but he knows it's a part of the game, so they just let it play. You know, in the box, they're doing the little things like the Brazilians. They'll use their knuckles and they'll get it up in you and stuff. So I think is a big thing of just how those duels are compared to Canada. It's way more.
Do you think that they target you because they know you're young and you're from Canada, or they do that to everyone?
That's a good question. Honestly, you know how the game goes. When they see a young guy, they want to test him. They want to see what he's about. But I think that's everyone. That's just part. And that's the love of their game. Everyone wants to win and they'll do anything in their power to put the game in their favor.
What's a controversial topic about Canadian youth soccer that you have an opinion on?
Sorry. So it's a hard one.
Like pay to play or the pyramid system going pro or pathways or university system?
I'd say pay to play.
What's your opinion on pay to play?
I do a lot of coaching and I could see a lot of parents are eager for their kids to go to Europe. For example, a lot of kids now, they're 11 years old. They have Instagram accounts. They have highlight videos. Honestly, to be honest, that's not what it's about. So I think a lot of parents, they need to realize, okay, maybe let my kid have the love of the game and then everything will work out. Because I think, especially today, a lot of parents, they have more love for the game than their kids, which is not bad to say, but I think then you're putting a lot of pressure on the kids because let's say things don't work out, they're gonna think they failed you and everything like that. So I think that's
It's an interesting topic because parents are. I've been very lucky with my parents. They were very supportive, and I think they pushed me in the right moments as to tell me to like wake up and work harder. But they also like supported me, and I'm assuming your parents were the same. What are some things that you see in parents that are not how parents should act with their kid?
Again, forcing them to play the game that most of the times the kids don't really want to play. For example, I know some parents that they do everything in their power for their kids to get the opportunity, but then their kid doesn't really want the opportunity. So they'll send their kids on trials, they'll pay this amount of dollars, $10,000 to send their kids to Europe on a trial that doesn't really look too legit, but again, they're not really aware of it, so they're putting their kids kind of up for failure. Yeah.
So, but let's say that I'm a parent and I really want the best for my son, and I really want him to have these opportunities and go do it.
Yeah. One, you need to do your research. There's a lot of scams going on in football, as you know. A lot of people are saying, okay, I played here, blah, blah, blah. Send me this amount of dollars and I'll bring your kid here for a trial. So I think trials what gets a lot of parents because...
How did you know that your trials were legit?
The people in my corner, they were really educated in the game of football and they knew a lot of people. And for example, their corners, they had ex-pros. Marco DeSisti, he was a Manchester United scout. Alberto Corso, who was my agent at the time, he was relatives with, I think it was Francesco Mancini. So I think it's just knowing who you're dealing with, and you have to do your research as well of who they know. And
I want to ask you also the importance of agents, because I'm glad that we're talking about this topic of like trials and having opportunities and not being legit, because there's a lot of parents and players that we talk to that have had bad experiences in the past with going to Europe, and it's not really what they expected. I think that agents are really important to get to the next level. I think that picking the right agent is really, really important in terms of your level as a footballer and where you can get to. How important has having an agent been for you?
It's been really important because
people don't really think about this. Like you think, okay, I'm going to get a good footballer and then Toronto FC is going to come and find me. But you don't really realize like the agent's kind of in the background doing all this work. So how important has it been for you?
Very important, because I don't know what I would do without an agent, because they negotiate your deals. They're finding the best agent is finding the best situation for you. So I think having an agent played a crucial part because they made all the connections for me, honestly.
How do you know it's a good agent? How do you find out if it's a good agent?
Doing your research, so seeing the players they have. For example, I'm signed to Beswick Sports now, so they have a lot of guys like Harry Payton, Ben Payton. They played in the Scottish League. They're also from the Waterloo area where I went to school. So I think just doing your research is a big thing.
What does do your research mean? Because I could do my research. I could go on Google Sam Henneberg. Oh, okay, looks good. Nice. I'm going to sign with him.
For example, researching the players. It's pretty easy nowadays with Foot Mob and transfer markets. So I think a legit agency will, one, have the players on their page, and then you could research the players. You can see how much games they played. Did they actually play at this level? So that's a big thing. Researching the player, researching the agent, and just the whereabouts of the agency.
Good stuff. Micah, I've got a quick fire round for you.
Yeah, no
5
worries.
questions.
All right.
You ready?
All right.
You ready?
For sure.
Favorite professional player to watch or model your game after?
Alphonso Davies.
The toughest opponent you've faced so far?
Amin Sanyang.
Did he cook you?
He did. He's one of my teammates at Hanover. He came from Bayern Munich. He was the fastest guy I've ever played. Yeah.
What's your go-to pre-game ritual?
Pre-game ritual? I think gospel music and just good vibes, good laughs.
Dream club to play for?
Manchester United.
Yeah. One lesson every young player must internalize?
Confidence is key, and never giving up. It's a lot of people say it, but you really need to go by those words, never giving up, because I've been in a lot of situations in my footballing career where I wanted to give up, and just having that mindset in my head, never giving up, was a really big
Just to finish, Micah, I feel like from your story, it's been not a linear path. You've had a lot of ups, you've had a lot of downs, you've put yourself in a lot of difficult situations, you've been out of your comfort zone a lot.
Yeah.
For a player listening to this that's thinking, wow, he really like went through a lot of things and he's still pushing and he's still motivated, what advice would you give to a player? Or what advice would you have give to what would you tell yourself when you were at U Sports about what's next? Like, what advice would you have given to yourself back then?
Control what you can control. At the end of the day, I do believe that if you put in the work, and everything else will align for itself. Also, for example, when I was in Germany and things weren't going too well for me, as I told you, I was hitting the gym early. I was training a good spirit. I was putting in the extra work, so I was controlling what I was controlling, and then at the end of the day, everything aligned for itself. So I think that's the big thing, controlling what you can control, and then, hey, if it doesn't work out, you have to live with it, because you did everything in your power to pursue that dream and pursue that career. Yeah.
Amazing. Micah, thank you so much for your time. Guys, we'll tag Micah's Instagram. If you have any questions or something that related with yourself, send him a DM, send him a nice message. But Micah, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it.